Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town rebel, Space Cadet Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, folks of all stripes, and distinguished guests, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for diehard Houston sports fans, from a diehard Houston sports fan. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Astros fan, podcaster, and feel free to add as many additional qualifiers to that statement to make it true. I am an actor, improviser, writer, creative, multi-hyphenate, but most importantly, I'm a proud Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. You know, people don't know this about me, but I'm the jester they named TC Jester after. I've spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer in Los Angeles, and now, well, I'm podcasting. That's what happens when you hit 10 years out here. You start absent-mindedly calling it The 10 instead of I-10, and you start podcasting. On today's episode, we're back. A dinosaur story. That's right. We're back to talk Houston sports. It has been a minute, or honestly, it's been almost 6 weeks. Good Lord. You know, at this point, I'd like to welcome newcomers. Space Cadet Sports is a passion project where we try not to be doom and gloom casual Astros fans or Houston sports fans, because most sports podcasts are doom and gloom clickbait or emotional reactions and hot takes. Here we try to not be just another dude yelling his opinion as if they're fact. You know, I tried my hardest to remember we're all, we've all chosen this life to be Houston sports fans, and we should try to enjoy this. Hi, Carla. Carla's here. I'd like to welcome returning listeners and welcome new listeners, what my brothers call the Paul Broadpod Ball Blog. Hey, brothers. They're both Milford men. Shout out to my brothers. Shout out to Arrested Development fans. And shout out to the subscribers on the Substacks. On the Substacks. Well, I mean, technically I have two, but this one just has one. Our new producer is here. We're recording this transmission from sunny Los Angeles, where I'm joined as always by my co-host and co-producer, the Roz to my Frasier. Carla the dog is here with me, and we have a new producer. That's right, a new producer on the podcast who is also allowed to be on mic whenever she wants. Baby Katarina. So for those of you who listen to the podcast, you know that I told you that I would probably take a leave of absence at some point, and this happened around early February, and I'm proud to announce that my new producer was here on Valentine's Day, baby Katarina Salazar. Katarina Ann Salazar, for those of you who need the full name. She is here, she is on the podcast, and she has kept me busy these last couple of weeks, folks. I am very proud to announce my new baby girl, my new co-producer. And yeah, just like Carla, she's going to be on mic from time to time when she's got hot takes. If you don't like it, there's the door. Don't let it hit you on the rear on the way out. Kick rocks, buddy. Look, I'm a family man. I'm a family man now. Very proud of it. Very happy. This year on the podcast, we're definitely going to watch all the Astros games. We're going to get back to you and let you know how things are doing. It might be a little different than subsequent years. That's just how it is. Family is important to me. I'm sure it's important to you. This is a passion project, so things may be a little different than they were in previous years, but we're still here to give you updated content about your Houston Astros, Houston Rockets, and Houston Texans. We'll stop in at Dynamo Corner from time to time. Houston now has a minor league hockey team, so we'll check in with them. But I am a mortal man. If you cut my flesh, I bleed. So, I might not have as much time and dedication to all of the Houston sports things as I have in the past, but of course it is my passion. I will be here to talk to you about it, and I can't wait to do it. But folks, I am beyond the moon. Is that the phrase? Look, I mix my metaphors here. I don't know them all. I may be a little sleep deprived on top of all my other mental instabilities. Look, we do this podcast a lot of time with no notes, and it's probably going to happen a lot going forward, as I am, I'm pretty busy. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to talk Houston sports with you. Very happy to announce the new addition to the production staff here on the podcast. But let's try to get to it. A lot has happened in the last 6 weeks or so. Your Houston Texans, they have an almost completely new offensive line. We talked about it last season. We've talked about it since the Texans' sad exit from the playoffs, that this team needs a new offensive line. They need to be able to establish the running game. So your friend Nick Capsavio, trademark here on the podcast, his nickname here, he went out there. He tried to find some money on the books by restructuring contracts. He traded and moved a lot of the offensive line pieces and have signed some new pieces here. I don't have all my notes in front of me because, hey, them's the breaks. That's how it goes. But this is just an Astros podcast here today. But, catching you up with Houston Texans, it does look like, besides C.J. Stroud's new look, his new hairdo, he's also going to have a new offensive line going into this season. We have a new running back, David Montgomery, on the Houston Texans. So we will have a updated and hopefully upgraded offensive line and running game with this Houston Texans going forward. Your Houston Rockets in the last 6 weeks, well, there was a lot of drama. I might be a theater major, but I was not prepared for all this drama. Folks, Kevin Durant got a whole scandal with Get Off My Dickerson, a Twitter handle that a lot of people claim to be Kevin Durant's, or one of Kevin Durant's burner accounts. Look, I can't talk. I have all the burner accounts. I gas myself up and I troll everybody. I don't have burner accounts. I do have an account for Space Cadet Sports, but you know it's me. I mean, I don't let Carla do much posting on that. At least until she is older, which. Baby Carla, my rescue dog, she just turned 6 yesterday. She just had a birthday. I just had a birthday. I'm a little bit older, a little bit bigger. I wouldn't say wiser quite yet, but there's been a lot of joy and a lot to celebrate in my life here. So I'm not as much of an internet troll as I used to be. But back to what we're actually trying to talk about. Get off my Dickerson. I should say at Get Off My Dickerson, just so people know what I'm talking about. This was a huge scandal that broke out with the Houston Rockets. A lot of people are pointing to it as if, trying to read the tea leaves and saying that the reason that the Rockets have not been gelling so well as of late has basically been because of this burner scandal. I think the players didn't make too much of a deal out of it in the media. Time will tell in a couple seasons when people talk about it on Pat Beverly's podcast or whoever is podcasting at that point. But it does seem like they have had some kind of issues as a team, trying to get together, trying to gel. But this is something that I talked about on the podcast, Check the Receipts. I said if we got somebody like KD, if you get somebody who's superstar status, you will have some kind of growing pains. And we've talked about this a lot. Show me that smile again. We've talked about the growing pains. Shout out Alan Thicke. Shout out all my thick boys out there. I knew there was going to be growing pains. If you're getting the superstar on your team, you should expect that. But yikes, it has been an up and down season. There has been a lot to be grateful for after the All-Star break. Reed Shepherd has been starting more. We've seen some really good games, but we've also seen some really tough games to watch. We're watching this season unfold and hoping that they can find some momentum going into the end of the NBA season and hopefully into the playoffs. Right now, they are looking to be a playoff team, that's for sure. But are they a contender? I could have been a contender. I don't know. That was Brando as the Godfather. Look, I'm sleep deprived, okay? I'll get my impressions together one day. I can't blame my baby on my terrible impressions, but I'll try. That's for sure. Look, are the Rockets a contender? That's a tough one right now. Right now, they look like a team trying to find its identity. They look like they're really good on some nights, and they really struggle on others, and it is driving a lot of Rockets fans crazy. For me and my household, we're optimistic. We're hoping to see them continue to grow, but it's been tough. It definitely there's been some tough games to watch. And right now, when I have limited time to dedicate to watching a game, some of those games have been discouraging to say the least. So we're hoping that this Rockets team gets it together. Maybe the answer is Reed Shepherd being in the starting lineup, but when Reed Shepherd's in the starting lineup, there's not a lot of points off the bench. It's hard to see this team offensively at times. Head coach of the Rockets, Ime Udoka, has definitely warranted a lot of criticism with his rotations, with his lack of an offensive philosophy at times. I don't think I'm quite as harsh as a lot of those people on Reddit and the X-Boys out on the app formerly known as Twitter. But I definitely see that Ime Udoka definitely doesn't have a lot of accountability for. He blames it on the players a lot. He doesn't really seem to be too introspective in the media. Maybe that's just his way of addressing the media, But either way, it does seem like Ime Udoka does need to figure some things out, or he could be a casualty of Kevin Durant being added to the Houston Rockets. And I'm not saying that's Kevin Durant's fault. I'm not saying Kevin Durant saying fire this man, but Ime Udoka does have to figure some things out and figure out a way to get this team gelling offensively. And it's looking rough right now, folks. Now, we're going to take a quick break, and on the other side of this break, we're actually going to talk about your Houston Astros. That's right, we have the opening day roster. We're going to go over that. We're going to look at the Sugarland roster as well. I'm going to tell you my projections for the season. I talked about that in previous podcasts, but I said that we would go back and revisit that after spring training, and spring training has come and gone. So we'll talk about your Houston Astros, their roster, and their projections on the other side of a quick break.
H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. I'm Paul Salazar Jr. Check out the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com. Become a subscriber. Get all of the podcasts, all of, the memes and the articles that I am able to write in my free time for free. I don't like putting much behind a paywall, but of course, if you want to support me, help me buy some diapers, you definitely can be a premium subscriber. I set that as the lowest price point I possibly can. I'll double check that. I have been a little preoccupied lately, but go check out the Substack and support my work, or you can follow us at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram. I like to be active there and share the memes, share the updates as best I can there. But let's talk about your Houston Astros, folks. They have announced their opening day roster. It's time to chase the fight, as they say on the social medias. What do you expect out of me? I didn't get the roster completely right. There were some things that have changed. Let's look at that opening day roster. We'll start with the catchers. And first of all, shout out to mi primo, Cesar Salazar. We were hoping he would make the roster. We did not anticipate Christian Vasquez getting a minor league contract and subsequently being added to the roster, but Cesar Salazar, Caesar Salad, as some of the Americanos call him, he got unceremoniously cut. I felt like the team was going to give him a fair shot. I know a lot of people say he is a 4A player, but I thought, especially after kind of, taking one on the chin, almost not metaphorically speaking, during that Framber Valdez hit, last season, I thought they were going to give him a little bit more runway than this, but he was designated for assignment. He is out of options, and I'd say there's like a 50-50 chance he ends up on another team. Another team may pick him up looking to shore up their a backup catcher role for them. If he is back on the Astros, there may be an opportunity later. But mi primo, which actually is not my family, just to be clear, he does not project to have much time with the Major League club this season. Your catchers going into opening day are going to be Yainer Diaz, who, no surprise there, and Christian Vasquez. A little bit of a surprise if, honestly. It's nice to have him back on the team. He definitely is a great catcher. I like the way he calls games. He's definitely taking steps back offensively, but that's not exactly what you're looking for out of your backup catcher. I do like the signing. Nothing against Christian Vasquez. I just was hoping to see a little more Salazar. Who wouldn't like to see their last name on the back of a jersey? I was hoping they'd give him a little bit more runway just to see if you could figure some things out. He's Cesar Salazar is definitely well liked by the pitchers, and I don't think Christian Vasquez is disliked by the pitchers. He's definitely more than capable, a good vet on the team. I do like that addition. And Yainer Diaz, we're hoping that this season is a season he starts to put it all together. We've seen some good defensive seasons. We've seen some good offensive seasons. We're hoping he can put it together. But at least we're hoping to see some power from him this season, less striking out. Let's look at our outfielders real quick. We have Yordan Alvarez, Joey Loperfido. That's right. I believe since the last time we talked, the Astros traded Jesus Sanchez to the Canadian Astros, the Toronto Blue Jays, for Joey Loperfido back. So Paella, Mr. Paella himself, Joey Loperfido, is back on the team. He is our left-handed bat in the outfield, beating out Taylor Trammell, the veteran outfielder, for that last outfielder spot. And Zach Cole, who caught some momentum at the end of last season. He had a tough spring. And yeah, you don't want to look too much or read too much into spring training stats. However, he was striking out a lot. And that's, whether you want to look at somebody's batting average in spring training, that's one thing. But if they're striking out to the extent that Zach Cole was striking out, that's showing he's being a little aggressive. He was also aggressive on the base pads. It kind of read to me, and other people too, that he maybe was just trying a little too hard, just pushing it a little too much. And I get it. You're trying to make the team, you're pushing, but I think the results just weren't there. We're going to have a young outfield. We also have Cam Smith, who is out there. We love the aircraft carrier. Check out my website. I have aircraft carrier hats to celebrate Cam Smith. Mr. Smith might be spending some time in center field this season as he took some reps out there in spring. Josh Reddick, former Houston Astro and world champion, spent some time with the minor leaguer or the Astros outfield during spring training, I'm trying to say, and he was liking what he saw out of Cam defensively. So there may be some moments where Jake Myers may be, pinch hit for. And maybe Cam Smith moves to center field. Speaking of, Jake the Rake Myers is back. Of course, he is now, with how youthful this outfield is, he is one of the vets on the team. He is a great defensive center fielder, and we're hoping that he can continue to find offensive success this upcoming season. He has looked better as of last season, and he did shout out Troy Snitker, fired hitting coach for the Houston Astros, that fans for some reason definitely blame the hitting coaches on a lot of offensive woes last season. But we're hoping that Jake Myers can have a huge breakout season as an outfielder. For those of you who are unaware, Chas McCormick was cut earlier this year. He now plays for the Chicago Cubs. Looking at our infielders, first and foremost, somebody who was a little bit of a surprise, but not too surprising, Bryce Matthews has made it on the opening day roster, and Bryce Matthews is also playing some outfield. This is something we talked about in previous podcasts. Bryce needed some flexibility. He is an infielder, on paper. But as you are well aware of, dear Astros fan, the Astros have nothing but infielders on their roster. If somebody like Bryce Matthews was going to make the opening day roster, he would have to find some infield or some defensive flexibility, and it does look like he's able to play the outfield. Astros manager Joe Espada was asked point blank, do you think Bryce Matthews could play outfield in a regular season game? And he said yes. So look to that. Look for Bryce Matthews to find some outfield time. So, we'll see how he does. I'm really excited about Bryce Matthews. I hope he finds some success. The Astros like their young players having more playing time. I honestly don't see a situation in Bryce getting everyday playing time, so we hope he finds some playing time and finds some success here, because I'm a fan of the young man. And other infielders, let's look at the locks. Of course, there's Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, Christian Walker, and Isaac Paredes, as well as Jeremy Pena, who there was an injury scare. Folks, look, for those of you who weren't paying attention, there was also a World Baseball Classic. Venezuela, shout out to Venezuela and Venezuelan fans for winning the World Baseball Classic. Honestly, I was cheering them on. Of course, I was cheering on Team Mexico as well. Watching Team USA from a distance, as Bette Midler would say. I was watching the World Baseball Classic. It was a lot of fun. Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa weren't able to get enough insurance to play in the World Baseball Classic, and Jeremy Pena was injured, so there wasn't a lot of Astros playing in the World Baseball Classic. Unless Zach DeZinzo was playing for Italy and Shea Whitcomb was playing for Korea. But some of the bigger names weren't out there this World Baseball Classic. But yes, I know Jose Altuve injured his thumb during the World Baseball Classic. But Jeremy Pena got injured fielding in spring training. Bennett Sousa, heads up, no spoiler alert, Bennett Sousa isn't on the opening day roster because of an injury. Baseball players get injured sometimes, folks. It's not something that happens just to Astros. It happens. So, for me, it was sad to see Venezuela do so well without Jose Altuve out there, because he was in the stands watching Astros coach Omar Lopez manage Team Venezuela to a W, to a big win in the World Baseball Classic. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of the World Baseball Classic. The last couple times I've watched the last two baseball classics, have been incredible. They're full of passion. It's a lot of fun to watch. So, I get that Jose Altuve could have been injured, but he could have been injured in his driveway. Sports injuries happen all the time. For me and my household, it would have been nice to see Jose Altuve out there, but it just wasn't meant to be. He got to watch as a fan. I'm sure he partied as a fan as well. Jeremy Pena being on the opening day roster is huge, and it also means that there's less flexibility for Isaac Paredes to find some playing time, we're probably going to look at some increased games of Yordan Alvarez in the outfield. And before I forget, Nick Allen, who was an Atlanta Brave last season. The Astros traded Mauricio Dubon for Nick Allen. And Nick Allen, I mean, this guy is Adam Everett. This guy is a great defensive infielder. He is a vacuum. Anything that comes near him, he absolutely puts in his glove. He's going to be a defensive replacement a lot on this team, maybe in late innings. We have so many infielders, he probably won't get too many starts. But we'll see some defensive plays from Nick Allen out there flashing the leather. And obviously with this lineup, with these players, it does look like Yordan Alvarez will probably get like 50 or so games in left field, if I'm guessing, right? It does look like maybe Jose Altuve will get 30 to 50 games in the outfield también. And I know people are freaking out. Jose Altuve is not a plus defender. Yordan Alvarez is Mr. Glass from Unbreakable. But here's the thing. Something that Yordan said during spring training is that he's never been injured while playing outfield. And that's correct. Yordan Alvarez is a good outfielder. Josh Reddick, world champion Josh Reddick and Houston Astros consultant, he even said Yordan Alvarez is actually a great or good to great. I don't want to misquote him here. But basically, Josh Reddick said that Yordan Alvarez is not as bad as playing outfield as a lot of people make him out to be. He doesn't have great range, but he does have a good arm. It just makes fans nervous to see somebody who's been so injured and somebody who we need in the lineup out there potentially getting injured. However, most of Yordan's injuries have happened from base running or by getting hit by a pitch. Maybe we just get a better base running coach for Yordan. Make sure we don't send him to get extra bases at any point. And for Jose Altuve, he might not be the best left fielder out there, but in Minute Maid, I definitely expect to see, I apologize. I got to put $1 in the Minute Maid / Daikin Park jar. But at Daikin Park, I do believe we'll see some Jose Altuve and Yordan Alvarez splitting some time in left, maybe some Joey Loperfido out there as well, maybe some Bryce Matthews. It will be a platoon left field this season, but I'm here for it and I'm looking forward to it because I need Isaac Paredes to get some designated hitting time as well. We need somebody to take pitches. We need somebody to go out there and make the pitchers throw a lot of pitches because a lot of people on this roster, they can swing a lot. And we don't have Alex Bregman. We don't have Kyle Tucker. Yordan Alvarez is the most patient hitter we have on a day-to-day basis. So we need Isaac Paredes out there. And if you disagree with me, cálmate. Let me know in the comments, but calm down. For those of you who don't speak Spanish, cálmate, essentially, I translate it to calm down, my clown. But let me know what you think about that in the comments, folks. We're going to take one more quick break. We'll be right back to talk about the pitchers and to project how the Astros are going to do this season.
H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports podcast. Look, folks, I try to do my vocal warm-ups. I try to be ready for y'all, but I'm still a mumble mouth. I'm still a mush mouth at times. I don't know. Maybe subscribe to the Substack and give me money, and I'll get some voice lessons. Okay, folks. We don't have much time to waste. Let's get to it. Let's talk pitchers first and foremost. We've been saying all offseason, or I should say I've been saying, and a lot of other experts have been saying that the Astros will go with a 6-man rotation. This is also something that the front office has said in the past. However, they have stated that they will start the season off with a 5-man rotation, and that's probably going to happen for the first 2 weeks up until April 10th when they start a long stretch of games without a break. So we do have a 5-man rotation to start, and they've already announced that. That 5-man rotation is going to be Diesel, your ace, Hunter Brown. Of course, if you didn't know by now, Framber Valdez is now pitcher for the Detroit Tigers. Our ace and opening day starter is Hunter Brown. We'll be seeing him pitch tomorrow against the Angels. We also have Tatsuya Imai, who is a Japanese pitcher with a nasty splitter, a great slider, and who just looks like he's ready to be a Houston superstar. He's on a 1-year contract with an option after that. However, I do anticipate he's going to be great. He's looked really good. I'm excited about seeing him out there. We also have new addition Mike Burrows, who is going to pitch probably. I think he's slotted to be 3 after Imai, but maybe I've got that a little wrong. I don't. Like I said, I don't. My notes are all over the place right now. I mostly have feeding notes on when to get Katarina fed here. We also have Christian Javier. Javier was slotted as like a 2 or 3 in the rotation for me earlier in the winter. However, he needed some time off for some personal issues, and he's has had less reps than the other pitchers, so he's kind of been knocked down the rotation just a little bit, but we're expecting El Reptil to come back strong. Hopefully he doesn't need too much time to kind of get right. We also have, so Brown, Imai, Burrows, Javier, and your 5th starter going into the season is Mr. Bury Me in the H, Lance McCullers Jr. And I know this is might be tough news for some fans, but I love Lance McCullers Jr. I think most of us do. I really do. I think the only people who don't like him are overseas bettors. And folks, this is just a reminder that these are people too. During a press conference this spring, I think you saw a little humility from Lance McCullers Jr. You saw some sadness. He basically is just like, I hope I have something left to give to this team. And if I have to retire, there's a lot of things going on in my life, with family that, he seems like he knows he doesn't have that many more opportunities on this team, but we're still rooting him on. We're still hoping that he is ready for this team and can slot in as a starter in this rotation, in the back end of the rotation. We're all rooting him on, but we will have to see how he does to see how many opportunities he has on this team. I'm hoping to see him, get some good 5 innings outings out of him, just eat some innings and get right. That's what we're projecting for Lance McCullers Jr. at the beginning of the season. Now, we do have some long relievers here. Spencer Arrighetti did not make it as a long reliever. He's with the Sugarland Space Cowboys going into the season. Our long relievers are going to be AJ Blueball, a young pitcher who just had an incredible sub-2 ERA last season. He has some good heat coming out of the bullpen. He definitely puts a little more on it, puts a little more spice on it. He has a high 90s fastball as a reliever, kind of a mid to low 90s fastball as a starter. I believe he is stretched out to be a starter, potentially taking one of those the 6th spot when there is a 6-man rotation. We also have Ryan Weiss, who came over from the KBO. He's stretched out as a long reliever, and Kai-Wei Tang, who we got from the San Francisco Giants in the offseason, who is a Taiwanese pitcher, who we're really, really excited about as well. For those of you who don't know, Josh Hader is coming into the season injured, so he's not on the opening day roster yet. We're wishing him good health. We'll definitely see how he is progressing, but right now definitely will be a couple weeks, I imagine, before we see Hader minimally. Also Stephen Okert, Stephen Okert is on the roster, but it's Bennett Sousa, another left-hander who is injured and we probably won't see for a little while. So we're kind of looking at our closing situation, who, it's going to be Brian Abreu, who is our closer going into the season. He has closer stuff. He most likely will leave the Astros because we won't re-sign him, and he'll be a closer for another team in a couple seasons, to say the least. But Brian Abreu will start this season as a closer for the Houston Astros, and the setup guy is probably going to be lefty Brian King. We like Brian King on the podcast. Definitely has had some tough outings, but generally has great stuff and pitches to lefties as well as he pitches to righties as well as he pitches to lefties, I would say. He's not a liability out there for righties. We also have in the bullpen Roddery Munoz, who was a Rule 5 draft pickup for the Astros from the Cincinnati Reds. So if he is off the team, he will go back to the Reds, so he will start off on the Houston Astros opening day roster. And our last addition is Christian Roa, and I apologize, I don't have my notes in front of me, so that might be a mispronunciation, but he is a Houston guy, Houston native, played, I believe, in Texas A&M. I apologize if I'm getting this wrong. You could definitely comment or write in and let me know if I'm getting this wrong. But he has made the opening day roster, and kind of a surprise to a lot of people, including myself. He was not in the mix, even as a name potentially making the opening day roster the last time I talked about opening day roster projections. So congratulations to him. We'll see the stuff that he has, and we're excited to see this team chase the fight. That being said, projections. MLB doesn't even have the Astros making the playoffs. Fangraphs doesn't have the Astros winning the division. It's going to be a tough year for your Houston Astros. And you know me, I don't think the golden age is necessarily over. I just think this team needs to stay healthy and needs to silence the haters. But there's never been a better bounce-back team than the Houston Astros, and I'm excited to see what they have for us. I think this is an 88-win team, and I think that this team can easily get a wild card and could even potentially win the division. I don't think the Mariners are these world beaters that everybody has them written down to be. I really think it's a thing where people cannot wait for the Houston Astros to stumble and be out of the limelight. So they're making a little bit bigger of a deal than the Mariners than they potentially are. And that's not to disrespect the Mariners, who are a really good team. I don't think Cal Raleigh Big Dumper can hit as many home runs as he did last season. I think that it takes a lot of luck to keep a pitching staff healthy all season long. The Astros have so many starting pitching options. The Astros have so many infield options. I think they have a lot of upside as in their outfield. I think if they can get their bullpen healthy, that bullpen is going to be a huge strength of theirs. If they can figure out which guys factor to be long relievers and which guys can transition to the bullpen. That's going to depend on a lot of health and success, but I think this is an 88-win team. I think this is a team destined to get to the playoffs. And look, a lot of people say I'm a homer. A lot of people say I'm a homer, but last season I said that they would be a 90-win team, and they fell a little bit short. The Mariners ended up kind of getting that 90-win season, if you will. And I think it was just some bad luck and some bad health for the Houston Astros. That roster, I think we're going to look back on in 10 years and be like, man, how did they not win, more than 90 games? And realize that bad luck and that bad health is what slowed them down. I think this team is still destined for success. I don't think the window for the golden era has closed. I think that there's going to be a trade happening before the trade deadline. I think this team is going to be strong contenders, but they're going to have to beat the allegations, or they're going to have to beat their history of slow starts. They're going to have to play above and beyond what they are on paper. And some of these younger players and some of these role players might have to carry some of the superstars if they're slow to start. I think they can do it. I have a lot of faith in this team. I mean, maybe it's just that so many things are going well in my life that I'm so optimistic, but I am. I think that this team will do well, and we're going to look back at last season as a fluke and be really really excited about our team and their future going forward. And with that being said, that's going to do it, Space Cadets. That's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. I'm forgetting my catchphrases. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Please smash those buttons for me. Like, rate, review, subscribe, share, bop it, kick it, skip it. All the things that the kids say. We're a small podcast and only go as far as our listenership takes us. We're supported by listeners like you, so please share us with a Houston fan or Australian in your life, which, by the way, good day, mates, and give us a 5-star rating on whatever platform you listen to us on. Reach out on social media. Once again, that's at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram, or you can call in on SpeakPipe. We're hoping to put more SpeakPipe voicemails on the podcast this season. So that's speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. Once again, check out the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com. And again, merch is here. You can find that on my personal website, paulsalazarjr.net, because I'm nothing but net. If you like me, you've gotten this far, you like weird jokes, ADHD, non sequiturs, you can find me on social media making jokes, memes, art, podcasts, and so much more at Paul Salazar JR, on Blue Sky, on, all the things that are still wholesome and out there. Find my other Substack on Substack if you're nasty. Thanks so much for listening. Remember to be the best you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Houston, and abolish ICE.